Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to stand in support of the national budget for the fourth time in less than 3 years. 2023, presented by my colleague, the Honorable Dr. Ashni Kumar Singh, provides this nation with a precise blueprint of the future that is to come under this PBPC government. It balances infrastructure development with modern systems for the delivery of social services that will significantly and positively impact the quality of life enjoyed by all citizens. But more importantly, though, it puts the needs of our citizens at the center of every project, of every social intervention, of every policy. It is truly a representation of the vision of this PBPC government for our beloved country. Mr. Speaker, if nothing else, the onset of the pandemic and the subsequent ramifications it visited to the world taught us that in a flash, everything can change. Though it took the folks across on that side of the aisle 5 grueling months to give up the power they were stealing from the people, many lives were...
Honorable Minister, I don't think stealing is one of the words we permit.
Though it took the folks across the aisle 5 grueling months to understand what democracy means and to not take away in front of the eyes of our citizens what belongs to them, and that is they expect nothing better than good governance and democracy. Many lives were lost, Mr. Speaker. Livelihoods were wiped out, but still we can boast of the gains that we have made as a government and as a people despite the odds. Mr. Speaker, our achievements are worth repeating.
Honorable Member Ms. Ferguson. Put on the mic, please. Honorable Member. Good.
Mr. Speaker, I stand on Standing Order 41. 41-6, Mr. Speaker. And this is what it is saying. No member shall impute improper motive to any member of the National Assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member just made mention that many lives were lost, right? So, from my interpretation, Mr. Speaker, it sounds as though we on this side of the house were involved in the lives of persons as he claims, so perhaps he may need to clarify that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, we've seen many general statements being made, and in this particular instance, I can't rule in your favor. Continue, Honorable Minister, your time is not lost.
Our achievements are worth repeating, as in just under 3 years, through the vision of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali and the incomparable strength in leadership of this PBPC government, we are charting the course of the fastest growing economy in the world. And unlike the opposition, who for 5 years wasted hundreds of opportunities to harness the power from the oil and gas sector to better position for our people to benefit every citizen, we have gone full steam ahead to craft, for example, a better local content policy, amended the Natural Resource Fund Act to make managing our oil wealth more efficient. We have successfully accessed carbon finance market, became the world's first jurisdiction scale country to be issued our carbon credits from our forests. We have awarded 14,000 scholarships to students of every race and region of Guyana. We have increased home ownership by 20,500. These achievements, Mr. Speaker, are only a few of the biggest gains we have made in under 3 years. Please sit, I'm coming to you just now. On this note, I wish to congratulate the Honorable Vice President, Dr. Barra Jagdeo, for recognizing that all those years ago and championing the cause for payment for our forests. Today, we are reaping the benefits of his vision for the low carbon development strategy. Mr. Speaker, by 2025, Guyana will have a modern 4-lane bridge across the Demerara River, an onshore gas and natural gas plant, new, more developed road and water networks. Our skyline will be transformed with an influx of modern architecture, and the people of Guyana will benefit from better and more immediate access to social and health services. The manifesto promise of 50,000 house lots will be kept, and above all else, the people of our country will benefit from a more comfortable life. The point I wish to emphasize, Mr. Speaker, and to this Honorable House, is that we on this side of the House did not just win the 2020 election, but we are fortifying and consolidating the confidence that the electorate has placed in us, and the evidence of our competence to guide our nation is all around to see. That's right. Mr. Speaker, the 2023 budgetary allocations for the Ministry of Housing and Water builds on the gains that the ministry has made in 2020 and 2021. To this end, the ministry, we have allocated, as I just said, over 20,500 house lots. We have established over 50 new housing areas. We have upgraded and installed infrastructure in 43 existing housing areas. And so in reference to 22, a few minutes ago, Mr. Speaker, that's over 5 years duration, and I challenge that figure where I'm speaking here of under 2 years. We have built 827 low, moderate, high-income houses, young professionals. A further 527 are in various stages of construction. The investment cost for these houses saw an injection of $7 billion. We have enacted the Condominium Act of 2022, which was assented to by His Excellency, and the regulations was gazetted, which now gives legal protection to the owners of the very duplexes that the previous member just spoke about. They are now able to come to the ministry and sign up for their title. The very duplexes that was just boasted about, none of those persons, none of the 80 beneficiaries could have signed for their title. Mr. Speaker, the Condominium Act, which received partial support from the opposition, will also see an opportunity for those persons to introduce more modern methods of housing. It is long overdue, and it has brought tremendous relief to the 40-odd owners, as I said. Mr. Speaker, we've also regularized many areas, and we've reduced squatter settlements from 19 to 13. We have processed over 4,265 certificate of titles and transports. We have injected over $50 billion into the Central Housing and Planning Authority. We have commissioned, and the reference was just made about a policy. we have commissioned and we've completed the study on the regularization for squatter settlements, and very shortly we will be bringing that report to the House. We have brought legislation to this House for the establishment of the single window system for development permits. Mr. Speaker, this piece of legislation was highly anticipated, and it paves the way for a more cohesive, less bureaucratic, more efficient system for the submission, processing, and approval for all planning and development applications. And I want to thank the Office of the Attorney General, the staff of Central Housing and Planning Authority, especially the Planning Department and the Legal Department, the partner agencies that are involved or affected by this activity for the work they have done to allow us to bring this legislation. As we speak, the IT consultants are here in Guyana conducting meetings with the technical staff as well as the 16 other partner agencies which are named in the legislation as they are part of the application process. This legislation, Mr. Speaker, in simple terms, will end the burdensome, will end the bothersome, will end the endless running around that home builders, contractors, investors, and the private sector do when they are seeking to construct a building. They lose valuable time from printing and expenses from printing and reprinting, chasing after a piecemeal approach to various agencies to inquire on their approval. Shortly, we will be conducting sessions with various agencies and our partner agencies so that they can be familiar with the new process. This new system will bring more efficiency and therefore more effective, it will lead to greater transparency. This project is on schedule, Mr. Speaker, and is expected by the end of June. We will be going live to fully launch the IT platform. Mr. Speaker, coming on stream of the single window is the testimony of the vision of transformation that this government is promoting. We are using technology to implement processes which can develop outcomes that are people-focused and cost-effective. Our transformative projects is not like the Durban Park. Our vision has 4-lane highways and superhighways. In regions 3 and 4, we also have the modern construction for modern bridges for across the Demerara and Corentyne rivers, stadiums, malls, and new agro-processing, for example, in the various regions, new processing facilities in the hinterland, more airlines. These, Mr. Speaker, modern hospitals, new schools, and the very brand new Silica City, for which we have already commenced the clearing of land for the construction of the first set of houses for the Silica City. And since the previous member knows how to take a picture, I invite her now. Even both of us can go. We can both go. I'll show her the land is on the honorable member, that the land is being cleared as I speak. Mr. Speaker, if there ever was a time to get excited about the future of Guyana, it is now. Mr. Speaker, the work of the Ministry of Housing is centered on providing subsidized housing for every citizen. It has been so since the PBPC returned to power in 1992. It is the commitment of every president of the PBPC, every government of the People's Progressive Party Civic. We have not wavered from our commitment. We understand and we appreciate the citizens' aspirations for home ownership. We are equally aware of the disparities that exist in the earning power. Added to this is the cost for the land and construction. The burden of buying or building a house is not a new phenomenon. The demand for housing is not new. It has increased exponentially as a result of the success story of the People's Progressive Party government to ensure that we can fast-track home ownership and home building. It is at an all-time high, Mr. Speaker, and although the times have changed, we have not stopped subsidizing housing. we have continued to implore and explore new ideas, new ways. We have done this by allocating house slots at significantly reduced prices. We have also introduced interventions to make owning a home easier. And also, we have addressed the bugbear issue of regularizing a number of old squatter settlements and resolving the issue of squatters who occupy lands that are on government reserves, whether it is to be used for sea defense, whether it is to be used for drainage, whether it is used for expansion of road networking or other similar national projects. Much has been said already about the most recent issue with squatters. However, Mr. Speaker, as the minister responsible for this sector, I wish to make it clear to the citizens of our country that we are not in the business of disenfranchising citizens. We are in the business of ensuring that every citizen has an opportunity to own their own home. But nor did we, in the case of Caneview, decided overnight that those squatters had to be relocated. You will recall, Mr. Speaker, in the very previous budget debates right here last year, 2022, during my speech, I provided clear information on this matter. That's 1 year ago, in response to some photographs that were provided by the Honorable Nima Flubes. She waived that during her speech. Mr. Speaker, at that time, I detailed our engagement with those squatters and indicated in very clear language the steps that were being taken to resolve the issue. Those facts, Mr. Speaker, trump the story that the honorable members now try to sell. They now try to sell to the public, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, that was 1 year ago. For 5 years, this opposition sat in government, did nothing to assist those squatters. They did nothing to educate them about their uncertainty for their situation. In fact, Mr. Speaker, and may I remind this nation, it was their former Member of Parliament and Minister, then Minister Valerie Patterson, who while serving as the Minister with responsibility for housing in the Ministry of Communities, told the residents of Sophia, and I quote, "I know we are not going to get rid of squatting in the next 5 years, maybe not even in the next 10 years, because it is so extensive here in Guyana. And it's in all regions, all areas. Every community is complaining about squatting. It's at a stage where even our reserves," Mr. Speaker, "it is at a stage where even our reserves that are being identified for educational purposes and the building of schools, the building of health centers, police stations, police outposts is being fully occupied by squatters. If people continue to squat, they are going to hinder their communities from getting necessary services." I end of quote, DPI, then DPI. And yet, Mr. Speaker, what has changed? This is the APNU while in government speaking about removal of squatters on reserves. What is different with the case in Caneview? Mr. Speaker, it left us to find ways to resolve the impasse with the Caneview market squatters. And quite unlike what we have done for any other area in this country, we went beyond. Mr. Speaker, I have with me an entire file that time will not permit me to go through. We spent millions of dollars outlining the steps that were taken, step by step, that was taken for us to get to that point, Mr. Speaker. This matter, Mr. Speaker, did not start overnight. It started way back in 2008. I went to the community of Caneview. I went as Minister of Housing on the 2nd of September 2021. The Honorable Member Flubes was there. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? Because we did not utilize or engage the APNU leaders, that is why they tried to cause disruption. Mr. Speaker, unlike any other area, in addition to offer compensation, in addition to offer the lands in Horstelling and Farm free of cost. In addition to all of that, processing the title immediately for their new location. Mr. Speaker, all 7 that refused to remove from that area, they were offered by this government, by this PPPC government, a house free of cost so they could have removed as a last-ditch effort. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to expose something today that has never been said. I see the honorable opposition says that there was some member from the APNU that was trying to negotiate with the Minister of Housing. Mr. Speaker, that is far from the truth. The APNU, throughout the process, were telling the people not to move, not to relocate, not to engage. 30 of the 35 engaged our community development, and we went to that point. But we could not hold anymore, Mr. Speaker. Even in the night before, there's a member, honorable member from that side of the House sitting here now who called me late in the night. And I said, it is now out of my hand because we can't wait anymore. I said, please, we can wait until the next morning because nobody was going to go and break in the middle of the night, despite the impression that has been given. I said to that honorable member, you have until, because I know the team are going next day, you have until 9 o'clock to ask those persons, please engage us at the ministry as well as the community development department. That honorable member called me back 5 minutes after and said, the leader of the opposition said, no, they're not going to tell those persons or encourage those persons to move because we can do what we need to do. Mr. Speaker, I am an honorable member, so I would not disclose who is that person. Mr. Speaker, similarly, I need to respond. Let me deal with the other member who so loves and thinks is passionate about the housing sector. But you can't come here and present and don't sit and listen to your rebuttal. Mr. Speaker, as late as the last day of 2022, that honorable member, Annette Ferguson, even wrote a letter to the editor accusing this PPPC government of not being honest with our allocation figure, accusing this PPPC government, the housing ministers, of utilizing allocations that were done in their period. Let me give them some of their story, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member tried to take praise. But, Mr. Speaker, we are in the allocation of those 20,500 house lots. It is for all classes. You heard the statistics that was presented by Honorable Minister Rodriguez yesterday, so I won't repeat. But what we did in 2 years, they did it in 5 years. Mr. Speaker, we deliver in keeping with our manifesto commitment. We said to the people of Guyana, it will be 50,000 in 5 years. For the period August to December 2020, we delivered in total, and I give you that category, as late as the last year, over 7,000 plus low to moderate income lots, over 2,000 plus middle income lots, over 1,000 plus high income lots. That's for 2022, bringing the total allocation last year for 10,000 plus. Mr. Speaker, in essence, we in this short period have allocated over 15,000 plus low and moderate income lots. That's the highest bracket for where we have the demand for house lots and housing. And that is what we responded to. Mr. Speaker, the high income bracket in that 20,000 allocation was only 1,927. So don't come and preach us here about not catering for the low income bracket, of not catering for the ordinary masses. We have the figures to prove otherwise. Mr. Speaker, they have a problem with maths, and an Honorable Minister Ferguson too. But Mr. Speaker, when we took over in 1992, there was no housing policy or program.
There was no housing ministry.
They can come here and tell us about mythical tales of structured housing plan under the pre-1992 and then 2015 to 2020. But it should be known that it was in fact a lackluster plan by the PNC that led to the development of over 200 squatting areas and settlements. Mr. Speaker, we have managed to bring that into about 158 areas while creating new housing developments. Mr. Speaker, the coalition between 2015 to 2020, I want the honorable member to listen. They only developed 3 housing areas at Peters Hall, at Prospect, and at Providence. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member Ferguson boasted, but of those figures, we are talking about 1,258 for housing areas that they developed. Mr. Speaker, in 5 years, the APNUAFC allocated 7,554 lots and come here and talk about housing policy. Mr. Speaker, in 2 years, we built more than 800 houses in Region 3, 4, 6, and Region 10. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member sought to take credit about LBI and Cummings Lodge, but failed to mention that the coalition government did not even pursue ownership of those areas. Mr. Speaker, the areas they allocated, there was no form of infrastructure. It is us in this PPPC government that is developing both the Cummings Lodge and the LBI area. As I speak, Mr. Speaker, all those persons who were allocated prior to 2020 can now go to Collin Croal and have their land identified. All those persons for LBI, Mr. Speaker, all persons that have been allocated in LBI, as a matter of fact, can now go to LBI and have their land identified. In fact, we have already signed the letters of agreement for all of those lands for LBI. So don't come and lecture us and provide false information. Mr. Speaker, it is this PPPC government that in 2020 we allocated, immediately back in office, allocated $8 billion for housing development or new infrastructure. In 2021, $15 billion. In 2022, $25 billion. In 2023, $50 billion. It's therefore, Mr. Speaker, another futile attempt to grasp the misinformed Guyanese. And so, Mr. Speaker, the facts are there for us to see. So therefore, we want to continue, Mr. Speaker, to implement new measures to assist low-income applicants to own their own homes. The very poor and vulnerable are already benefiting from home construction assistance program, which makes access to loan easier. So far, Mr. Speaker, close to 200 applicants have pre-qualified and have accessed loans on favorable terms from our partners in the banking sector. Mr. Speaker, we also introduced, and they won't talk about beneficiaries, or they won't talk about low income, and they won't talk about the masses. This is information they need to listen. We have already introduced the cement and steel subsidy, which is available to any new home builder, for which to date, Mr. Speaker, we have approved over 302 applicants who will, in a new week, will begin to collect their vouchers for the steel and cement for the foundation to commence the home. Mr. Speaker, we have commenced in Region 9 on the subsidy program in Letem, for where 600 allottees will benefit from a grant of $1 million each. Mr. Speaker, they will also be offered loans at concessional rates for the additional $2 million. Under the Adequate Housing and Urban Accessibility Program, 125 core homes will be built. Likewise, over 600 plus subsidies for the vulnerable will also be issued. Mr. Speaker, these interventions favor any qualified applicant for a house lot. It doesn't favor any one community. It doesn't favor any one class. The demand for housing is so high. To begin building houses, we have started a robust program. And in this year, you will see our continuing our construction of houses, because we want to ensure that it's not only about allocating lots, but it is providing an opportunity for persons to immediately have their own home. Mr. Speaker, we have houses that are under construction in various categories. We will be expending $50 billion for new and existing areas. These include, for example, Mr. Speaker, areas such as Metamazorg in Region 3, Shoreville, Lenora, the MDRAC on the East Coast, Hope on the East Coast, Nonpareil, Great Diamond on the East Bank, Blocks 3, 7, 11, 13, you name it. The very Silica City that the honorable member is talking that we're doing a pipe dream. Burma on Region 5, Baltiok, we have already allocated, Mr. Speaker, Shieldstown, Prospect, Palmyra, new development for that will be the economic activity in Region 6, number 75, number 76, even Bartica, we are commencing the construction of the first set of houses this year in the town of Bartica.
Honorable Minister, you need to commence the extension to conclude. Honorable Minister Teixeira.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I'd like to ask my honourable member be given more time to conclude his presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister Croal, you will have 5 minutes to conclude your presentation.
The acquisition of lands will continue. The laying of infrastructure for utilities, both water and electricity, will continue. The ministry has outgrown its space. We will commence the construction of our new head office at Houston this year, Mr. Speaker. And likewise, you also have the 4 lanes that are under construction. We have for currently, by the middle of this year, commuters, including the honorable member who lives at Eccles, will be driving from Diamond all the way to Mandela on a new 4-lane highway. And work has already started. Very shortly, we'll be going out for tenders for the continuation from Great Diamond to come out at Craig. Likewise, in Region 3, work has started at Schooner to Crane. By the middle of 2024, commuters in Region 3, and likewise who's going on to Parika, etc., will be driving on a brand new 4-lane as a first phase infrastructure for our highway development. Similarly, we are working on an alignment for the East Coast that will see us from Aubrey Barker Road continuing all the way a new alignment that will end in the initial phase at Enmore Hoop. Mr. Speaker, all these are aid towards ensuring as we grow in communities, as our people become having more disposable income, so will be more importation of vehicles. Likewise, we have to ease the time one spends in traffic. Mr. Speaker, in water, we will have recorded a 97% increase in access to water. Our financial targets were surpassed by 17%. Over 28,000 pensioners are receiving free water of subsidy for $523 million. Transmission and distribution networks and mains are being extended. A number of new wells, 15 immediately, will commence in the hinterland for over 8,000 persons. We are investing in 7. We have already signed the contract and work has commenced for the construction of a total of 13 new water treatment plants that therefore will address all those complaints on the coastline about the quality of water, because we want to move that percentage from 52 to 90% by 2025. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I want to say to the people, the interventions and practical work within the housing and water sectors have brought tremendous benefits to the people of this country. In closing, I want to wish to report that we have begun the infrastructure work to ensure that all those persons who are allocated lots last year will, before the end of this year, will be accessing their new location. And all those persons who were allocated in the AP and UAFC for no infrastructure work was done have now started to see their land, access their new land, and they have already started the loan portfolio to borrow. Mr. Speaker, the very low income bracket that they're talking about has seen, for example, at New Building Society, from September 1 to date, over $4 billion in the low-income bracket for over 600 new persons who have approved for low-income loan. So I cannot leave without telling the citizens of this country that We are going to be constructing over 660 kilometers of new roads for those new areas that I speak about. 81 bridges, 1,620 culverts. I want to use this opportunity to express my gratitude to the staff of the Ministry of Housing and Water, the hard-working staff who have worked day and night and toiled to ensure that we cleared some of the arrears and to clear the backlog, because nothing was done under the previous APNU AFC government for this sector. Mr. Speaker, we are on a fast track. We are on a train to ensure that we are able to respond and provide an opportunity for the many young people that can see a hope, that can see a lining that will see them having a home for start their own family, to see them owning their own home, that they can have a space and they can have a document that signals, this is my title, this is my transport, this is my land. That is the difference we bring, Mr. Speaker. At this midpoint in term of office, I am happy about the progress across all the sectors that we are seeing today. We have demonstrated that we have a plan for Guyana's development, and we are always ready to find solutions that will improve on the lives of our people. Our commitment to this is evident by the level of confidence that we have received from our people. They are not uncertain about their futures. They are not supporting us. They are supporting us on every project, every policy, because they know we will deliver on our promises, that we will help them realize this new Guyana, this new one Guyana under President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure, an absolute pleasure, to support Budget 2023 under the theme Improving Lives Today, Building Prosperity for Tomorrow, presented by Senior Minister in the Ministry of Finance, who presented a budget, and the hard-working staff of the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that we are here today to have this budget debated in a timely manner, which allows us enough time to implement our project. The people of Guyana, for the housing and water sector, can expect grandeur activities. The people of Guyana in the housing and water sector can see changes in their life. The people in Guyana under the housing and water sector can see the improvement in the quality of their life. This is what we committed to the people of Guyana, and this is what we will deliver. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.